one hand, and Qatar and perhaps Kuwait on the other hand, in the sense that there is a certain contention, if you will, about whether Gulf Regional Council members have a right to have their own independent foreign policy or not, whether they could differ from the leading power within the GCC, which is Saudi Arabia, whether they could have sometimes differences, and then escalating their trouble on the ground and through the media campaigns and so on and so forth. I think probably GCC leaders probably should talk to each other much more efficiently nowadays.
Okay, very briefly, Marwan, Turkey getting involved, as you say, they're talking about troops going into Qatar now. What sort of influence has that had in the whole proceedings?
Look, Turkey has a defense treaty with Qatar. So there's a Turkish military base. It could take up to 3,000 Turkish soldiers if need be, when the time comes and so on and so forth. But there's certainly what was already a bill in Parliament since back in May has been rushed through Parliament now. It's been approved. So President Erdogan could theoretically be able to send troops to Qatar if need be. I hope, and I think most people in Qatar and in the region hope, this does not happen. There's no need for it. We are not in a state of war, although sometimes there's a feeling that there's a state of psychological warfare being waged against Qatar, but certainly we are not anywhere close to a real.
All right, Marwan, thanks very much indeed. Marwan Bashara there. Thanks a lot. Now then, former FBI Director James Comey is set to testify that US President Donald Trump tried to influence an investigation into his team's links with Russia, and that Trump told him he expected loyalty. Comey, who was fired by Trump last month, will appear at a Senate committee hearing on Thursday. In written testimony, he says that Trump urged him to drop an investigation into his former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. Comey will also say that Trump asked him what he could do to lift the cloud of the Russia probe. Meanwhile, two top US intelligence chiefs have refused to say if they were pressured by President Trump to influence an investigation into his campaign's ties with Russia. National Security Agency Chief Mike Rogers told the Senate Intelligence Committee he's never felt pressured by the White House. National Intelligence Director Dan Coats also refused to comment on media reports that President Trump asked them to downplay
indeed in recent months. He says in his written statement that President Trump asked him for loyalty. I need loyalty. I expect loyalty, he said in a one-on-one meeting with James Comey. James Comey replied that what President Trump would get was honesty. Then he said as well in another meeting, President Trump did ask him to lift the investigation into former NSA leader Michael Flynn. He said that, I hope you can let this go. Now, what's particularly particularly significant about this, though, according to James Comey, is that this followed a meeting in the Oval Office with a large number of other government figures. President Trump insisted that everybody leaves the room, leaving only Comey behind, including the Attorney General, who had been present at that meeting, and of course, who is the FBI Director's boss. Subsequently, James Comey also testifies that he asked the Attorney General to ensure that President Trump no longer contacts him directly, and said that he was concerned about being in the same room on his own with President Trump. We also have a phone call documented by James Comey from President Trump, asking him about that ongoing Russia investigation, in particular asking that he lift the cloud, as he put it, over his administration. James Comey recalls the conversation verbatim as he said he had nothing to do with Russia, had not been involved with hookers in Russia, and had always assumed he was being recorded when in Russia. He asked what we could do to lift the cloud. James Comey said he told the president that the investigation was continuing, that he would do what he could do. So a very important
UK. Meanwhile, across France, weather conditions are looking largely fine. Madrid also looking at some decent temperatures, but that front makes eastward progress during the course of Friday, with another weather system following on behind. Those central areas generally looking fine, a few thunderstorms around, and this frontal system across more eastern areas bringing some cooler weather to Moscow there, with a high of 16 degrees. On the other side of the Mediterranean, the weather is looking dry and fine. Pretty hot in Cairo, you'll notice, though it's cooling off a little bit as the wind just begins to come in off the Mediterranean during the course of Friday. For central parts of Africa, most of the activity is out towards the west. Along the coast of Nigeria towards Ghana, heavy showers are likely here. Further north, still one or two showers affecting Chad, Niger and Mali. Southern portions of Africa, we've had some stormy weather affecting South Africa. Elsewhere fine, but quite chilly in Johannesburg.
A 15-year-old boy tortured in the world's most notorious prison, finally released after 13 years.
I wouldn't wish this experience on anybody, but I have a hard time thinking about wishing that I haven't gone through this experience.
In an exclusive interview, Omar tells his epic tale. Witness presents Guantanamo's child, Omar Khadr, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Simmons has this.
Audacious attacks on what had for so long been seen as a safe city. inside and outside Iran's parliament, it became chilling